African American gentleman. He has a magazine called Canna Investor Mag, or it's CannaInvestorMag.com. And his investment magazine is awesome. It's you don't have to order it in paper copy. You can get it, virtual in your email. But he talks about how to invest in different stocks, what are the hot stocks that are going on right now. And we as an organization did a webinar about 6 months ago. And we did a webinar, just basics on, how to get your, if you have like an E-Trade account or one of the orange accounts, how to get it set up. I would say, depending on how much money you're looking to invest, if you're looking to do small investment, there's a lot of penny stocks out there, but not all penny stocks are good stocks. And his magazine is really great. It really walks you through some of the hot ones that are out there right now. And, and don't even look at just the ones that are doing cultivating plant. Look at the ancillary cannabis companies like, you ever heard of Weed Maps?
Yes.
Okay, and Ease. There's some companies out there that are not touching plant. They're delivering ancillary support services. And those are the companies that will also do well once this industry opens up.
Yeah, now that being said, also, Arthur, you should check out, the class I think you're enrolled in, our Can Investing 101 class, which, includes Deshita's, master class and a few other sessions to get started, and includes 6 profiles of companies that don't touch the plant. That, if you start reading through those, that will definitely be a good starting point to get you up to speed. Absolutely.
So use your resources that you already have around you, but the Canna Investor Mag is Canna Investor, CANNA Investor Mag, MAG.com. It's free. All you got to do is just sign up, sign up for it. You'll get the information. You let Darren know there is a place where you can email him if you have questions and say, hey, I found out about your magazine from M4MM. I was on a call with ROZ McCarthy, and you let him know. He's one of my board members, and he will respond back, and he will definitely help to guide you. And what we'll do is we'll do more webinars in regards to this, in conjunction with your Canna Investor class that you guys already have available to you.
How do you spell the gentleman's name?
It's Derwin, DERWIN. Last name is Wallace, WALLACE.
Okay, at CannaInvestorMag.com.
You got it.
All right, I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Perfect. So who else do we have? You just raise your hand. Any questions? You got a business idea. Are you thinking about an idea? Are you in a state that's about to go legal? Let's talk about who's going legal. If you know anybody that's in Oklahoma, they're about to open up their license to their application process. New Jersey's application process is open right now. Virginia's going to have another round of applications. Florida's going to open up their application process in probably like around November, December timeframe. So there's different states that are looking at it. Michigan is another one. So we got, who we have here? We have
Renee Day.
Renee. Hi, Renee. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good, good, good. Tell me what's on your mind, sweetheart.
Yes, I'm currently in the state of Texas.
Okay.
And I'm very interested in the policy activism portion of cannabis as well, not just investing.
Yes.
Last week, there was a conference held in Austin.
Okay.
Called the Texas Marijuana Policy Conference. And we, kind of talked about some strategies in reference to the timelines for when the Texas legislation is going to be looking at pre-bills and the right time to get in what needs to be advocated. Right now, Texas, not many people know Texas does have a small policy right now that was pushed back in 2015 for medical marijuana. However, it's extremely limited to the point where it only covers one disease process, which is epilepsy.
Okay.
As we know, it really can do more than just treat epileptic patients. So I need some guidance in reference to how do I go about going up to the Senates and House representatives and talking to them before the pre-bill stage is set to lobby for expanding that policy.
All right. First and foremost, I just want to tell you, your mind and where your thoughts are going is in the total 100% right direction. Let me tell you guys, no matter what state you're in, if we don't set good public policy, if we're not a part of the process of developing good public policy, we as a community, we will be left out. The way that they roll out these programs is based upon the public policy that's set in the legislators. So one, I want to give you a big kudos, and I'm glad that you're already thinking about this. There's a couple things that I would recommend. First and foremost, M4MM, Minorities for Medical Marijuana, we do have a chapter president, Latasha Okaran. Hopefully I said her last name right. She's an attorney that's based out of Houston, and she's our Texas chapter president. She's been working already with Houston Normal and some of the other normals that are in Texas and talking about what things that we want to see in regards to recommendation as they look at rolling out a bigger, a more robust program for Texas. Texas is going to be a huge state. There's a lot of resistance right now, but if we gather our resources together, and you know what, you don't have to be an advocate of one. What I would do is get you connected with us, with M4MM, connected with Normal. What we do during our lobby day is we actually have a whole, we identify first the Black caucus leaders. So we find out who are some of the Black caucus leaders in Texas. We have a recommendation of a list of 10 to 12 recommendations that we like to see in that legislation bill. Some of the things that we put in there is we want to see the cost of the medical marijuana card on a sliding fee schedule. So if you're someone that's below the poverty line, you're not paying the full price for that card. We want to see dollars put aside for youth prevention. We don't want, we believe in legalization as adults, as adult use, maybe as medical, but we want to make sure there's something that's targeting youth, especially in at-risk communities, for them to be able to, have these campaigns that really push, youth prevention. So we have about 12 different, bullet items that we recommend to get the conversation going. And so we would give you that as well. And we can start, kind of planning out how exactly we're going to attack this and who's going to be our champion. You got to find that champion in your state capital. And I did it in Florida, where I went and did a presentation for the Florida Black Caucus. And in Florida, we have the largest Black caucus. We have 45 Black legislators in Tallahassee, where the capital is, from the Senate side to the House side. So there's a lot. And so after I presented to them, and I told them, I'm like, listen, this is our opportunity to get our issues addressed. I finally got them on board. I started seeing them on a regular basis. You know what, now, anything I'm asking for, next year for our session, I'm going to be asking for a lump sum of funds to help us do expungement clinics in Florida, because that's where I'm based out of. And they've already said, yes, ROZ, we're going to approve this in our budget to get this funding for you. So those are the type of things, once you build relationships and show them that, one, we're out here advocating for, equal opportunity on the business side. We want to advocate for social justice. It all comes full circle. And we could talk more in detail, but I definitely want to get you plugged in. You can also email us on how to get plugged in, m4mmunited@gmail.com. m4mmunited@gmail.com is you can email us as well, and I'll get you plugged into Latasha.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, love. That's such a great question. Let me tell you how important that is for everyone as we get ready for the next person to speak up. Public policy is everything. And we have states let me tell you something. Colorado has a full-blown medical and recreational program, adult use program, and the percentage of individuals in regards to people of color that are owners, business owners in the industry in Colorado, is less than 2%. it's because there was no type of language in their laws when they was first rolling out the programs that said specifically that you're going to either carve out some licenses for Black-owned businesses, that you're going to have, you're going to ask people that turn in an application to have a diversity plan. We did it in Florida. We have a diversity plan requirement. It's a statute. It's a law. It says if you go after a license in Florida, or if you have a license in Florida, every year you have to submit a diversity plan that tells them exactly how you're going to do your workforce development, getting more diverse workforce, more diverse supplier contracting. How are you going to do your community education and community outreach? And they want to know equity-wise, do you have people of minority descent, ethnic minorities, women, veterans who are equity stakeholders, meaning owners of your business? And so when you go and apply for a license, that's a part of the scoring mechanism. And if you don't have a strong diversity section of your application, you're not getting a license. And that was because we put that language in. And those are the type of things that need to happen state by state by state. All righty, next question, concern. You have a business right now that you want to talk about that you're already in. You have an ancillary business. You're in some type of industry right now that you have that you want to figure out how to cross over into cannabis. This is your time. Let's talk about it.
Correct. So if you have a question, please raise your hand. In the Zoom control, there's an option to raise your hand. And once you raise your hand, we will work. Renee is raising her hand again. Let me let her talk again. She has another question.
Go for it, Renee.
It'll take a second. She has to get on and then.
Okay. Sorry about that. Don't want to monopolize the entire session here, but
okay.
I did have another question. I've gone to a couple of conferences for cannabis in other states to kind of get a feel of what's going on.
Yes.
Because here in Texas, we're kind of slow on the uptake, and some of it is because they're looking at the states that are more established with their policy.
Sure.
But at the same time, I've noticed a trend where there's been some discussion about farmers that are looking for cannabis farmers that are looking for investors. Can you speak a little bit about that? And is there some type of, I would say, national platform for cannabis farmers that we can research information in reference to their platform?
Sure. So what you're probably hearing, let me address a couple of parts of your question. First and foremost, if you are in a town and there's a conference coming to your town, it's a cannabis conference, it is worth your time and your effort to attend. Sometimes if it's a conference, like we have conferences that we're a part of, and like for our members, if we know we're going to be there, we may have complimentary tickets because some of these conferences can be expensive. So whenever I attend a conference or if I'm speaking, I ask them for comp tickets so that if I have a member or someone that's in that area that wants to attend, I want you to attend and not have to pay anything and be able to absorb it all. The reason why is because those conferences have everything from the cultivators to the people that do the lighting, to the people that do the pre-rolls, to the people that do packaging. Everything that you can imagine under the sun is in that vendor exhibit hall. And in addition, you have some good speaker panels that really will shed light on different areas about the industry. So I definitely recommend, if you're in Oakland area, there's a conference coming up called the New West Summit. Highly recommend it. The latter part of this year, in December, there's a Louisiana, Arkansas, Texas conference coming up. I have the details, but we're going to be there. We're going to give out some comp tickets as well. Highly recommend. There's a conference in Phoenix, Arizona in October, the U.S. Cannabis Conference. They're going to be in Miami next week as well. And then there's a conference, the CWCB Expo is going to be in Boston. But we try to, if you go to our website, we try to put all these conferences on our website so you can have access to know where they are. Let me tell you something. You'll go to a conference and you may see someone that does vape pens, or they have the different devices that you use for vaping. They're from China. What they want to show you how you can buy from them and then retail in your area. So that's how you can start talking about how you introduce a business, just by going to a conference and find out how you buy from them wholesale. You set up your retail and sell retail in your city or in your town where you live. The farming part, the cannabis farming is not farming. I think what you may hear is about hemp farming. And if you guys don't know about hemp farming, hemp is where basically it's the kissing cousin to the cannabis plant. It's great for medicine, but it's also great as an industrial plant for textiles and shirts and rope. And I mean, hemp has over 25,000 different uses. So hemp, when cannabis was outlawed, hemp was also outlawed. And we're starting to see now that our legislators up in DC are thinking about allowing hemp to be farmed and cultivated. And so we have, as an organization, we actually have a VP of hemp technology. His name is Dr. Jackson Garth. And what he does is he goes into the different states and finds those farmers and even people that own land. Basically, you may say, hey, I own land, I don't have equipment, I don't want to farm, but I want to participate and I want to be a hemp farmer, or I'm open to someone using my land to farm hemp, and I'm able to get a lease payment and maybe, have a revenue share, get a little percentage of whatever the revenue is created off my land. Those are the type of things that we're trying to set up for state by state. And I personally have my own business, McCarthy Hemp Co., where it's a urban farmer collective, where the farmers, I get you together. So I got 100 acres here, maybe 200 acres here, in the state of Georgia, total maybe 1,000 acres. And these people are like saying, listen, Roz, I don't want to farm per se, but I would love for you to I will lease the land to you, let you farm, and then we'll revenue share it. And so that's what's going on in regards to hemp. When it comes to cannabis cultivation, it's more so where you have to have a license for both. But normally, if you have someone that's cultivating cannabis, they're not wanting to outsource that. They're doing it everything because it's so specific in your strains and how you do it. Whereas hemp, you throw the seeds down, and when you throw it down, you watch those plants grow. And then from there, you're extracting the oil, but you're taking the plant, you're taking the stalk of the plant, and you're using it as a textile. So it's not as scientific, I should say, like you would do if you're growing cannabis.
Yeah, one thing to add, and I don't know if you're aware of this, Roz, or not, but I thought I'd just pop this in over at the Boyce Watkins and Black Business School side of things. The U.S. now, with the impending hemp legalization, and with farming, there's an organization out there called the USDA, the United States Department of Agriculture. And there is a big initiative on the USDA side to promote all sorts of first-time farmers and small farmers and everything on that front, to the tune of either, incredibly low interest rate loans to grants and everything to kind of, get you started with 25,000 or 100,000 or whatever to get going on the hemp side if you want to actually start your own hemp business. So one of the initiatives we have internally is we're looking at more kind of a templated program for someone saying, hey, if I live in a rural area, or if I've got a couple acres of land, or if I want to actually get into hemp farming, to have a program. And we're working with some of the members that are in the Black Business School to actually put together a package or a program that they can just use to take advantage. So it's like, okay, here's the right paperwork to fill out, here's the right license, so forth, so forth, and so forth. Yeah. Now, one thing on the marijuana side, and I guess this might be a question for you, Renee, because you also mentioned that, are you looking to actually become an operator, as if you want to start growing this stuff, or you'd also, I got the opinion that you were looking to maybe do some investment on your side. So do you want to maybe expand what your thought process is, Renee?
Yes, I'm not necessarily looking to be an operator, but definitely investment side of the house for the farming. Okay,
so on the investment side, and let me pop in and then I'll let Roz talk. I've got a lot of experience personally as a private investor. For most small businesses, I mean, which is what you're talking about, if you're investing in a small business and everything, you would fall under the concept of either being an angel investor or maybe having to be an accredited investor or being in that whole friends and family type of a round. And it really depends on a lot of things, but you just need to be mindful that investing in small privately held or startup companies is a bit of a challenge in many ways, because there's a lot of pitfalls that can occur. Not saying that you can't be successful doing that, but there's a whole world of that to be mindful of. Roz also mentions a lot of things, and also for most, smaller investors, and, I don't know exactly, what the numbers, you're playing with, right? If you're putting in, a couple $1,000s or 10 grand at a pop, a small privately held company may not be the best form because you don't have the liquidity, you don't have a good secondary market, you don't have all those sorts of things. And that's where maybe, larger companies that have liquidity, that might be publicly traded or so forth, might be a better option. Now, that being said, you can definitely do that. It's just be mindful that in the smaller stage of these sorts of things, the risk is much higher, especially at the formation level and everything on that front. Roz, I don't know if you want to add to that or provide additional insight.
So let me give you a practical example. I'll give you 2 different states. In the state of Florida, in order to even apply for a license, is $60,000. The license for Florida is a vertical business model. And what that means for everyone, it means you do everything from seed to sale. So you're responsible for cultivating, manufacturing, processing, retailing, and delivering. So when you think about that, your license gives you carte blanche to do all of this. In addition, you have up to 25 retail outlets that you can have throughout the state. The actual value of a Florida license right now is about between $45 to $60 million in regards to, like, if you have a license, the value of it, if you want to sell it. So the entry point to get a license in the state of Florida is so much higher than Oklahoma, because in Florida you have more competition, you have more, I would say, more hoops you have to jump through. So it's going to take a very liquid, you have to have an investor that's very liquid, that has that capital. And a lot of times they have the capital for the first round of funding, but then you have to go back and do a second round of funding in order to support your expansion and growth. And so that particular market that was the reason why I created the diversity language, because the way that the legislation has it written right now, in order to get a license, how many African American, Hispanic American, how many people just in general, let's take ethnicity out of it, can afford, spending anywhere between $250,000 to $400,000 just to apply for the license, not with no guarantee that you'll get it.
Yeah, and keep in mind, and I think it's a good point that you bring up, Roz, that $45,000 to $60,000, that's just the fee, but these things aren't simple. It's not like you just, go to the DMV and, check a few boxes. I mean, putting an application together, you need people who are, legal professionals, finance professionals, scientific professionals, all these sorts of things. They're going to look at the resume. They're going to look at all the people. And the reality is, it's like Roz says, right? To apply for that $40,000 license, you might need or have partners, that you guys are all people that could make, 100 grand, 150 grand a year doing other things that you have to spend, 3 months of your time, whether it's sweat equity or you'll be paying out consultants to do all that. So not that it's not doable, and it's not, we're not trying to dissuade you, but there is a lot that goes into this stuff, and there's a reason why, if you look at a lot of the financials of these publicly traded marijuana companies, they're raising tens of millions of dollars right now in a big land grab. And ultimately, I'm not trying to dissuade anyone or anything like that, but, part of every business opportunity is finding what your niche is, right? And if your niche is, everyone's got their skill, and the last thing you want to do when you're a new entrant is to, try to go toe-to-toe against Goliath, who might have, $20 million in a war chest, who has access to, massive capital and everything on that front. Again, it's an opinion, and take it for what it's worth.
So the opportunities, though, they vary. You may have a state, we don't know. This is why the legislation is setting the public policy, because, Florida set this policy in regards to the vertical model way before, infra-MM came around, because I would have thought that, hand and tooth. I don't know if it would have made a difference. But like a state like Oklahoma, who has a horizontal business model, horizontal means that you can apply for just a cultivating license, or you can apply just to do manufacturing or lab testing. You find out where you want to get in, where your skill set is, and you apply for that one license. So to apply for an Oklahoma license, let's say for a dispensary, is $2,500. Okay, so you go, okay, I can afford $2,500. Well, now you go, I need my experts to come with me to do my SOPs, which are standard operating procedures. I need an attorney for all of my legal and contracting work. I need a architect and an engineer to help me understand the drawings for my build out for the dispensary, and maybe a consultant who knows the business. So maybe in Oklahoma, instead of spending $250,000 to get your application in, you're only spending, let's say, $50,000. That means the cost to put everything in, the process of getting your application in, they want to know that you have your retail outlet locked down. That means that you have a letter of intent from a retailer, from an owner of a retail space, and that space can't be in those no zones. I'll put it to you that way. Meaning not close to a church, not close to a school. There's zones of where you can put your dispensary. So that's the difference between the two. However, you have different pockets, and this is something we're fighting for. Like in Oakland, California, and Los Angeles, and San Fran, they have something called the equity program where you don't need any money down. You don't need any money for your application. If you qualify for the equity program, you can actually you can do your own investment funding with your friends, family, outside folks, and you can start your business. And if you bring in a consultant that can help you in how to organize it, you could legitimately start your own business with your own funding. So it's such it's a hodgepodge right now. And what we've done as an organization, we have equity owners who are out in California. I have folks that have cultivating. For example, we had a guy, he was out in Northern California in Yolo County. He had about 5 acres of land. He had his water permit, his license from the state, license from the county. He just needed $50,000 of bridge money because he was trying to get his seeds down. He had a little more money that he needed to get down. And what he did was he did a private, those people that are interested in investing with a 100% flip. So if you put in $10,000, he was going to give you $10,000 back in return. So you would get $20,000 back within a year time period. And so he just needed to build out some money so that he could get his cultivation site up and going in order to maximize his opportunity to flip his crop at least 2 or 3 times before the year was over. And so that came to us because he's a member. He was like, Roz, this is the situation. And if you have anybody that wants to invest. So that's why you have to, the whole Infra MM concept was almost like create this village of individuals who were like, I just want to be in the thick of things. I want to know when different opportunities pop up so that if it's something that's aligned to what they're interested in, then you have some connectivity and go from there. So hopefully I answer your question, and and if you have a situation as Texas comes on board, we can definitely talk offline.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
A few final things just to add, Renee. I'm not sure if you're enrolled in the Canna 101 investing class or not. But
I am.
Okay, wonderful. There is a upcoming presentation by Deshita Dawson, where she'll spend literally like an hour and a half going through every nook and cranny of the entire cannabis industry, from being, a co-packer to being an extractor to being like a travel cannabis enthusiast to being a marketing cannabis person to being a cannabis organizer. Like, there are so many different facets to look at it outside of just saying, hey, I'm going to go grow some cannabis. And I would recommend that you check that out, because that's something that'll help you see like all the options and all the things. Like, I mean, there are people, and I think, Roz, you were talking about this on I think you were talking about on your interview with Dr. Boyce yesterday, where there was, you said like 2 gentlemen who started like these Canna events.
Yeah.
And they're just throwing like, parties or big events, and you have thousands of people that pay $100 each to just, and all they gotta do is they just rent a warehouse or they put a room in and everyone shows up.
Yeah, they do. It's called CannaGather, New Jersey. Google it. I mean, this is Deshita, just so you guys know, Deshita she's the in-house, subject matter expert with Canna Investing, with your school there. She's also my chief strategy officer. And then these other 2 gentlemen, Leo Bridgewater, he's my my national director of veteran outreach, and Ronnie Soto, he's my national director of Latinx outreach. These are two guys that live in New Jersey who figured out there was a need to be able to put all these people that wanted to talk cannabis and business side together. So they do something called Canna Gather New Jersey. And basically, like they did it last month, they had over 300 people there, charged $50 a head. This is a Hispanic gentleman and an African-American gentleman, and no one would even know it. It was only maybe 20%, people of color there, and everybody else was white. But that's not, my point is that you can come into an industry and come up with an idea, and it's not predicated on you just touching the plant. It's a cool idea. It catches on. You get people to buy into the fact that you are a subject matter expert. One thing about this industry and this cannabis culture, you can't kind of dip your toe in and dip out. It's one of those things where you have to kind of in your mind go, I want to figure out how to get in. So you have to get involved. You have to start attending meetings. You have to start, doing your advocacy and your lobbying. And that's where the connectivity that you can connect with organizations like InfraMM or just with their local normal Students for Sensible Drug Policy. These are the organizations that are having these meetings. They're going to tell you what things are going on so that you can start making your presence known. Build a brand, come up with a name for your company, come up with something that really resonates with you, start breathing air into it, create a website, just buy the domain name, go on Wix, go on GoDaddy, make a basic website to kind of give you some traction, and just watch how quick you will, especially in Texas, it's wide open. So.
Right. Now, one final thing to add too, coming from an investor perspective, which I think would be applicable to you, Renee, and everyone else who's looking at this from an investment perspective. One thing as investors, you always want to be mindful of is the concept of asset allocation. And, you look at it from a high level perspective, everyone knows that cannabis is going to blow up. So if you put, it's kind of like the dot-com boom 20 years back, right? If you put your money into tech in some manner, the trend is it's going to go up. Now, the one thing to be mindful of is, though, nobody has a crystal ball. So the smartest investors who know how to make money also know that they don't know what is going to make money, right? So if we go back to 1998, everyone, AOL was the hot company that everyone thought would take over the world. Well, fast forward 20 years from now, who's heard of AOL? Like maybe they've got some, people might have some AOL emails, but what's come about is, Amazon got big, Google got big, Facebook, Netflix, those are the ones that got big. So the other thing to think about from an investment perspective too is this concept called asset allocation and position sizing. And this is something that, people think about, okay, I will diversify. And most people only think about it in one dimension, saying, hey, I've got $10,000, I'll diversify into 10 different chunks. But diversification also works across time because we can't predict, what the highs and lows of the market up. Sometimes it's up, sometimes it's down. You look at the cannabis space, in January it jumped up and then it was down 30 or 40% since January to March, and now it's coming back, but then some things are going and some things are not. So what I'm saying to think about and also to be mindful of is, and everyone's personal situation is up to you. When you invest in private companies, don't put all your eggs in one particular company or one particular option. You want to have some sort of, risk being spread aside because you just don't know what the future can hold, right? Maybe today we think vape pens are going to be the thing, but then, 6 months later, someone invents, the greatest, who knows, cannabis thing in the world. And if you're all in on vape pens, then when the next thing comes up, or if the next thing comes up, you're not able to catch it. And part of it also is realizing, and the reason why asset allocation is important, is everyone always says, investing is simple. We just buy low and we sell high. Well, that's simple to do, but it's actually hard to implement. And a lot of it comes into how you've set up, your investments, right? So if maybe, you look at your entire portfolio, if everything, like if your nest egg, if your retirement, if everything's in cannabis, that might not be the smartest thing to do. Maybe you put like 10 or 20% into cannabis, maybe 30% is still in more traditional real estates or bonds or more traditional, technology companies or blue chip companies and things like that. So that if the cannabis index drops, like something stupid happens with Trump or Sessions and cannabis gets outlawed for a year and everything goes down, you're not stressing too much because it's money that you're okay losing, Not that you want to lose it, but the concept of only invest what you're willing to lose, that's what gives people the mental fortitude to just kind of put the money away, forget about it, and look back 5 years later and say, oh my gosh, that $1,000 I put in now is worth, $30,000 or so forth on that front. Great. I think we should move on.
Yeah, so what I'll do is I have Frederick Browder. Frederick got a great question, and then Ronald Briggs, you're next. So Frederick says, what about Nevada marketing licensing? Would that be a good market to invest in? I've known a company that's already licensed for cultivation, and I'm interested in investing in the building where they are processing. Nevada, as you know, is approved for medicinal and recreational. So yes, Nevada is approved for medicinal and recreational. And my suggestion is with Nevada is I have been trying to personally work on Nevada in regards to opening up the market to get more, for them to open up for more licenses. I know that that's going to happen in the next year and a half or so. If you have a connection right now where there's someone that's doing cultivation and they're looking at wanting that additional building space, or there's some type of connectivity there, first and foremost, you want to look at, if they're cultivating, before you get going, look at their, they should have some financials and revenue information to share, like in regards to projections of, past historical revenue that they've created in cultivating, and also projections of where they see the future when they start building out. And that'll give you a good idea in regards to how to leverage and understand, is my investment, it's hard to predict, but is my investment going to be something that makes sense for me in regards to the long-term growth of where they are? And do you see it going in a slope trajectory, like going upwards toward versus going down? And but I will tell you this: Nevada is a hot market, especially with the fact that you have NFL football is moving to Las Vegas next year, or another, what is it, 2 years? So it's 2020, I think, when the Oakland Raiders go to Las Vegas. They just have a new hockey team that's based there now. It's second behind Orlando in regards to when it comes to travel and visitors that go to Las Vegas. So if there were an opportunity to get into the Vegas market, long story short, I would definitely look at it seriously and figure out where your fit is.
Yeah, and just to add, and I saw Frederick actually put a second question, which I really liked. I'll just read it. It says, I've known a company that's already licensed, and I'm interested in investing in the building where they are processing. I love that idea. Actually, that falls in the concept of picks and shovels, which goes in line with a lot of the Canna 101 and the Black Business School, the investing methodology. And what I would recommend that you do in the Canna 101 class, there's a research report on a company called IIPR, and they are the first publicly traded cannabis investment REIT. And you can, there's a report in there. You can go read the report and everything. You can buy them on NICE or the stock exchange and stuff like that. But I would look at that if you're actually looking to do your own private deal. I would look at the company and then really just maybe even do your own research and dig into the financials and how the REIT gets structured and everything on that front. Because the people that are running IIPR, these are savvy REIT people. They were traditionally, they were in the medical building space, and their initial REIT that they did in that space returned 1,000%, over a 7 or 8 year period, and they're at it again on the cannabis side. And the purpose of it, since you're looking to actually do a private building investment, would be to actually, go dig into the prospectus, go look at how the numbers are, really dig into that. Because that will give you the feedback and the insight so that this is how these deals are structured in the cannabis space and everything like that. And there's a lot of people who are doing the cannabis real estate side in terms of providing, real estate for a lot of these growers or these processors and things like that. That's an incredible blue ocean. So it's a great angle you're going at, Frederick, and that's wonderful. And what I would recommend if you're in the Canna 101 investing class is go read the report on IIPR and then really start digging into that, because that will help you structure the deal in terms of how these things work in the cannabis industry. Great, let's run over to Ronald. Let's unmute him.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, hi Ronald, how are you?
I'm great. How are you today, Roz?
I'm good. Thanks for calling in.
Thank you. This is a lot of great information. I just
Good.
put my questions up on the chat to make it easier. But I did hear you mention you have land in Georgia. Is that correct? Where you're doing hemp farming now?
What we're doing is we're trying to identify those farmers now who have land in Georgia. We actually did a project in South Carolina. South Carolina did back in November of 2016. They had it open to get a license for hemp farming. So the hemp farming license is a little bit different than the cannabis license. They have it now in a lot of the different states who have hemp licensing. You have to connect yourself to a university because they want you to do quote unquote research. It's just kind of like, for me, I think it's just another, you know how sometimes people put another obstacle in your way before you can go full blown and being able to really look at how to enter the marketplace with your product, or they kind of put barriers up and it's like, we want you to do it, but we want you to jump through these hoops. That was kind of the hemp licensing, exactly. So in South Carolina, last September, they opened up for licenses. They offered 20 licenses. They had the application period. Dr. Jackson Garth, who is, again, he's our VP of Hemp Technology, he was responsible for identifying 4 farmers, Black farmers in South Carolina that he helped personally with their application. So he was able to, the application said you had to find a processor who would process your crop. Because once you're ready to cultivate, you're like, okay, infrastructure is a big issue with hemp farming. Back in the in the 1800s, when they banned hemp farming and going into in the 1800s, there was some small infrastructure, and then as you went to the going into 1900s and 1930, when there was a total ban on hemp farming, all that infrastructure in regards to processing it went away. So long story short, he went in, worked with the farmers. Unfortunately, none of the farmers that we submitted, none of the Black farmers got a license. So they just had another second round this past, I want to say it's past April, May. And so in between time, we went to the Black Caucus in South Carolina and we said, listen, how do we make sure our farmers here have an opportunity to go after this license and actually look at their application and be vetted and understand how do we create diversity in this marketplace? So we were able to get the South Carolina Black Caucus on board. They were like, ROZ, Jackson, resubmit those farmers, bring more farmers to the table, and we're going to make sure the Department of Agriculture really looks at and make sure that the license there's some diversity there. So we're still waiting for them to make their decision about the next round of 20. So what we're doing for Georgia is we're preparing now. I believe that Georgia is going to have a significant hemp bill that comes out of the session in 2019. And now is the time for us to identify farmers, be it if you're a farmer and you have land and you want to do it yourself, then let us help you get your application together. Let us help you connect those dots. But if you are someone that owns land and you're like, listen, Roz, I own land, but I'm not really interested right now in regards to farming it, but I would love to lease my land out to someone to farm it for me. That's kind of where we came into that, and that's what we're doing right now, kind of gathering those people together to understand who wants to get involved from what perspective.
So you mentioned 2019. Can you repeat that? I'm sorry. What
Yes.
is going to happen? Georgia.
So Georgia is going to go. So 2019, the legislative session kicks back in 2019 in Georgia. Okay. So you have your elections in November. You go into December, it's winter break, and then I think you guys start in January, but the legislative session in Georgia starts. I know that the hemp bill of some kind is going to come out of Georgia, unless, now this is something I want you to keep a watch for. There was a farm bill on the Senate side that came out that passed. If the House of Representatives on the House side in DC, if they take up this bill and they pass it, then the hemp farming across the board would be legal for all 50 states. And then we wouldn't have the issue of each state having to set their own and make up their own bill for hemp farming. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I follow that. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you very much.
So what I would say right now is, how much land do you need to start hemp farming in Georgia? Great question. So you know what, I would my recommendation in regards to hemp farming, there is, when we did the webinar on hemp farming, we had the conversation, do I need 1 acre? Do I need 5 acres? Do I need 10 acres? I would say a minimum of 10 acres if you can, because what you want to do is you really want to maximize that land, that coverage. There's a company called Hemp Inc. If you Google them, they're really good friends of ours. They're actually one of our partners, and they have the largest cortication machine. That means the processing. If you guys ever get a chance to, they have a unit, it's called Hemp University. And if you ever get a chance to go there, you can actually go on their premise and see how they take the hemp plant and how they process it, and they actually turn it into sawdust, and they use it for different material, like for the panels for your door. They have this proprietary material that they use for oil companies. So you just got to start thinking about this. Let me tell you another really cool thing. We're looking at trying to help other different, like Caribbean islands, look at hemp as a plant for exporting back into the U.S., especially if the U.S. is slow about getting the hemp farming going. So if you got friends and families in Trinidad and Belize, and like right now we're working on something in Zimbabwe. Those, I mean, it's so much opportunity right now. It's just, you got to stay, you have to research, you have to Google, you have to look at, hey, what's going on hemp farming in Georgia? If you have family that are in Jamaica, Jamaica is one island in one country that's not really interested in hemp. They really want to go and focus on the marijuana industry, because they feel like with a lot of the Canadian connection of companies that are coming there, they could export that out with different products. And you want to have as much countries that have a lot of land mass for agriculture, that there's not a lot of land mass for tourists, but there's land mass for cultivating. Those are the countries that are very much interested in hemp versus cannabis as a plant for cultivation.
Great, Roz. Well, we've been on for actually almost the better part of an hour.
Yep,
and for the first time, I think we were all kind of nervous, right? Is anyone going to show up? Are people going to ask anything? But I think, for everyone who's out there, let's all give a big thank you to Roz.
Hey, Charles, before you finish, let me wrap up, because this is you guys.
No,
I do this call because it's not about I think we need more connectivity from a conversation standpoint, to answer some of our questions, to be able to have some conversation. I do it every single week, so you can come back on next week if you have another question. It is not about hey, I want to give I want you to buy this from me or do it. I want you guys to get so engaged and so interested in the industry from a business standpoint, but just to know what's going on. Let me tell you something. We, as a culture and as a community, sometimes what happens is we see an industry coming, and we're not thinking and looking ahead, and we're not trying to do our research and figure out just to even know where it's going. And then once it comes and slams us against the face, we're like, good gosh, what happened? And it's happening. And that's what's happening right now with the cannabis and hemp industry. It is coming. It is a wave. It is not going anywhere. I don't care about the Jeff Sessions or about Donald Trump, because I will tell you this, and I know single-handedly that some of the main investors, the main contributors to Donald Trump's campaign are medical marijuana owners here in the state of Florida. And so, and they reside right in his neighborhood down in South Florida. So you better believe that all this Republican money that's getting into the medical marijuana industry, they don't want to see it go anywhere, because they see this as a new cash crop that they're going to try to jump on top of. And I just want to make sure that the folks are on this call, that we have an opportunity, if so inclined, to participate. So thank you guys for listening to me and trusting me with your time. And make sure that if you want to reach me, m4mmunited@gmail.com, or you can go to our website at m4mmunited.org for more information. 877-900-0832 is our phone number. So thank you so much, Charles, for helping me out this time, and it'll get better and better.
It's great. And everyone who's on, I'm sure, I've just been taking notes and drinking from the fire hose with Roz. Think about, all this information. Come back with questions. Roz will be back next week, and this is definitely, we're going to make it a weekly thing, just because we want to we definitely want to spread the education. So thank you again, Roz.
You're welcome.
This was great.
All right.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you both.
Thank you, guys.